All right, welcome to the UMass Law Library's Legal Drafting with AI Tools workshop. My name is Katelyn Golsby. I am a librarian here. If you would like to follow along with this presentation, a number of the things I'll be clicking on are linked here. So you can go to tinyurl.com/Golsby AI drafting, and that's spelled out towards the bottom there. And yeah, if you just want to follow along, you can. If not, you can keep these slides for later. So we'll get started. All right, so just as a simple overview of what I'll be covering today, I am going to give you a short background on AI use in legal practice. I'll talk about some good and bad use cases, and then I will get into a demo. So today I will be showing you a couple of AI drafting tools available on Lexis. I will show you Westlaw's Drafting Assistant, and then we'll also use the free version of ChatGPT to try to create some other low risk types of document. And then I'll finish it up with a bunch of things I think you should think about before using AI tools for legal work. So, there are wonderful applications for artificial intelligence in legal practice. I am only focusing on sort of transactional practice now. And I would probably love to have some other workshop in the future expanding on that a bit, but I don't want you to come away from this thinking that these are the only uses for AI for right now. All right, so let's give you some background. Artificial intelligence, or AI, refers generally just to a computer's ability to perform tasks that are associated with human level intelligence. The phrase generative AI started in the 1950s, or really the concept of generative AI. So this is the idea that artificial intelligence can create something based on human input. So that as a concept, again, started back in the 1950s with some early versions of chatbots, which are basically programs that you can speak with and which would come up with, a small amount of intelligent output. Machine learning was in use by 2014, allowing for realistic content creation by AI programs. So, machine learning refers to the AI's ability to really learn for itself and apply what it learns to the generative content it creates. And then fast forwarding again more into the future, 2020 is when large language models began serious development and funding. And ChatGPT, as many of you might recall, came out in 2022. And it really just kind of turned the world on its side. So, when it comes to AI tools that are specific to legal practice, Lexis launched its AI platform in May of 2023. Westlaw claims to have been working on an AI project that was related to billing as early as 2020, and both of these platforms now have AI built into their traditional legal research interfaces. But there are dozens of standalone legal tech platforms which now use AI to take the place of research and drafting tasks. These standalone legal technology platforms also use AI to simplify processes such as billing and all kinds of different administrative work that can go on in a law firm. So not only is it being used to supplement the work of real attorneys, it's being used to completely oversee their offices in some of these circumstances too. So, since ChatGPT became available for public use, there have been hundreds of lawyers that have gotten into trouble over fake citations and other misleading information that was generated by AI programs. I think I see a new one probably every couple of weeks, at least, sometimes a year, a little bit more than that. But you know what I don't hear much about? Bad AI drafts. So, arguably, of course, inserting a bad citation into a draft is bad drafting. But drafting is a strong use case for AI because it doesn't need sensitive client information to work. and because many transactional documents are simple in that they're based on other transactional documents. So if you are working for a company that has used the same contract over and over again while swapping out a few of the clauses, congratulations, that is a great use case for using artificial intelligence, especially if you're using a secure version that is not going to make those documents public. So, what are some use cases for AI in legal drafting? I just gave you a quick peek into one of them, but here are some of what I consider to be great reasons to use AI for writing. So, creating template emails and client letters. These are things that you are sending out of your office on a daily basis, things that you should not have to spend more time on than you already do, and an area where you could probably make your life a little more efficient is just creating templates for these things that you were already doing. The second great reason to use AI for writing is that when you need a summary of a long document and you have access to a secure platform, you can upload files and you can have a conversation with an AI large language model or whatever kind of AI platform output you're using. Whatever it is, if it's secure, you can upload files to it and have a conversation with an AI entity really about the contents of those files. And I do want to stress it should be a secure AI platform that is intended for attorneys and other legal professionals, not just ChatGPT. The third great reason to use AI for writing is when you want to check an old document or create an automated table of authorities. So, something that will come up at a law firm from time to time is all of the documents that they have from old cases. And some of these obviously may need to be site checked. So Westlaw has a tool that's actually really great for that purpose. And again, this would be with a secure platform. So this reason number one and even reason number four, if you are not putting any of your client's information in, you could very easily do these tasks using ChatGPT. You don't have to pull out the fanciest legal technology to create template emails or to rephrase things that don't contain client information. And then here are my three awful reasons to use AI. So, the reason people keep getting sort of busted using AI is because they don't have time. So, reason number one here is you've run out of time to carefully craft something. That's probably the worst time to use AI because you are not checking it as well as you might be if you weren't in a rush. So AI isn't going to take the place of your careful preparation and tact. Okay, that's point number two. You forgot to prepare something. So everybody has run into a meeting before where maybe they aren't completely sure what we're talking about. Maybe you forgot to read the agenda beforehand. Those are, not the best things to do at work, but when you're an attorney, not being ready for something can mean your entire profession. So if you try to sort of make up for that by using AI, you've made two mistakes instead of one. And then the third one, you don't know how to write. Figure out how to write. If you are not good at legal writing, read quality legal writing from other attorneys. Do not use AI because you don't know how to write or you're uncomfortable with writing. AI is something that can help a great attorney be even better and make a bad attorney even worse. So keep that in mind. Okay. So I would like to hop in here to do the Lexis Protege drafting demo. So I'll get here to Protege. This is where I am right now, but I want to show you how to get in. So if you log into Lexis, let's see. If you log into Lexis, what you'd ordinarily see is this legal research page. So Protege is Lexis's generative AI product. And I have a couple of different things I was planning to run through here. So let me copy and paste my prompt. So here's just a pretty straightforward one. I'm asking it to draft a franchise agreement for Deli's Donuts between Deli's Donuts Incorporated and Frank Smith. Please make sure the agreement clearly indicates that no trademark of Deli's Donuts is to be used for any reason without the franchisor's express permission. Please also provide a clause making Massachusetts the governing law of the contract and any disputes arising from it. And this can take a few minutes sometimes. And while we're waiting, I'll just point out a couple of the important parts of this prompt that I've given it. So, first off, I might be able to just say a donut restaurant. I don't necessarily have to give the full name. I can add that later. It takes 2 seconds. But you do want to make sure you're as specific as possible about what kind of agreement you want to draft. And then if there are special clauses that you would like to include, try to do that too. So here, my draft is, or my ask is specifically for trademark and Massachusetts being listed as the governing law. So one of the things that will typically happen, and we might see that in a moment, is it will have us double check the jurisdiction. So if your jurisdiction is set to Rhode Island, but in like the legal research area and you go to Protege and you ask it to look up a Massachusetts law or a federal law, it's going to ask you which governs. So here I think it assumed it because my last jurisdiction may have been Massachusetts. So we didn't get that ask. But here's what we got. We have the recitals, we have just kind of this preamble here. Oh, well, you know what's really interesting about this? I like that this happened while it was live because I did have this same thing drafted before. So here it's a franchise agreement and then grant of license. And then Lexus just kind of decided not to keep answering after that point. So I'll show you what my response was earlier. So here's where I asked for the franchise agreement earlier. And that response was completed. Oh, here we go. Here's our deli donuts. So we have a lot more information here than we had on the last one. And so what's different about the prompt? Let's see. Yeah, nothing about the prompt has changed. So something interesting about using AI in any capacity is the answers will be different even if you ask it the same question. So here, before I asked it the same exact thing, asking for this franchise agreement where I am really stressing trademark law and also Massachusetts as the governing law for dispute resolution. And as you can see here, a bunch of other stuff ended up getting included, just stuff you would think about if you were an attorney, right? Oh, maybe you want all this other information here. So it's going above and beyond what the ask is for, but asking it the same question just a few minutes later for some reason caused it to only talk about this. So I guess another reason why it's important to sort of be flexible and experiment with these things because sometimes the answers are great, sometimes not so much. So what do we have at the end of this? I have two different versions of a franchise agreement. One that's not great, and one that is I would say above average. Both of them from the same program, having asked the same questions. So I did hope that I could have done that live for you all, but seeing a mistake live from AI is actually pretty exciting for me anyway. So there you go. We've drafted agreements. Here's a second one. So the reason that I want to ask it to draft a motion is because this time last year, Lexus specifically said it was not for drafting motion. So here I just have a very simple ask: draft a motion to dismiss in a federal district court in the District of Massachusetts under Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 12b-6. That's the failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. And here's this jurisdiction check again. So it wants to make sure I mean U.S. District of Massachusetts and not Massachusetts. And hopefully we'll get a full-fledged drafted document from this ask, but if not, I have some other things for it too. All right, so we're generating a response. It's giving you these kind of little updates. Actually, while this cooks, I'm gonna move over to the drafting assistant, and I've created um, just some kind of fun fake documents. So this is an amicus brief, and what I did was I took away the table of authorities. So let's go back to Lexis. Oh, now that our motion to dismiss is fully cooked, well, here we go. There's a lot of fill in the blanks here, of course, but if you have no idea where to start with something like this, it'll give you something that looks, an awful lot like a lawyer drafted it. So that is that example. And then one last example I want to provide here on Lexis. I'm going to go ahead and use, you can also make it draft a memo. So, like an internal memo that's possibly for someone else in your law firm. So, what I asked was draft a memo about the legal risks of owning a dog kennel in Rhode Island. So, here it comes with an introduction, a statement of facts, not totally necessary to have all these parts. But it goes over licensing requirements, animal control ordinances, public nuisance concerns, and has a little analysis section. It's citing the primary law here. One thing is, of course, anytime you have AI create, or not create, but I guess identify primary law for you, always click through and make sure that it is what it says it does. And we have a brief little conclusion here and the content that supports the AI generated response. So this is a great way to quickly come up with something that you will later want to obviously poke through and make sure is good. So like I said earlier, you don't want to do this in a rush because I can't just print this off and hand it to somebody. I need to go through and actually make sure that it is cited to the applicable law. All right. So this is the drafting assistant. I guess before I get into that, I want to show you some other things that Westlaw can do. So you can ask it all of these questions. So sometimes I will actually like go in and I will ask this like a hypothetical for one of my classes. Or if I'm having a particularly difficult time with a legal research problem, I will sometimes ask AI deep research. Obviously, that's not transactional drafting, but I wanted to just kind of show where you can look at the different AI products here on Westlaw. But the drafting assistant is available at drafting.westlaw.com. So once you go in, you'll be prompted to upload a document. You can upload any document, and it will either try to build a table of authorities or do like a citation check on it. So first of all, again, this is an amicus brief. It is the FAA v. Cooper, and then this is something that was submitted to the court with a table of authorities. So I'm going to get this to sort of rebuild it. And what you can do is you can make the whole document look for table authorities, or you can mark a range. So this would be really helpful if you were dealing with writing a gigantic brief with multiple people. You could actually go in and just have it check certain sections or a new section of the document, making it also quite helpful. So again, there's going to be a lot of information cited on this, and we're going to be able to see what that looks like. And this would be a lot cleaner too if this were just, my brief. Um, but I downloaded it from Westlaw. Okay. So unverified means that Westlaw was unable to verify that citation. So one of the things you would want to do when you see something like that um, is probably look at it, right? But also make sure that that citation is good. So this looks like there's a cross citation um, kind of leaking into this one, so it's not creating a full citation, but of course, still double check. So these are all of the other ones, and it goes item by item, and it will give you the unverified ones as well. I think it has some difficulty with pin sites, but out of everything on here, if I have to go back and verify less than 10 things, I think that's actually not bad. So, oh, I forgot to select the position. There we go. So here is a full table of authorities, and again, it's including that bad citation, which is why it's important to go in and sort of check this on your own, but it's identifying every page in the document where a particular authority appears. This is all stuff that would be very annoying to do after the fact. So we'll say finish. And then the other thing I'd like to do here is West check. So you can create different profiles. By the way, if that is something you want to do, I'm not sure if as a law student you're going to be dealing with this in that much depth, but it's an option. So we'll see what WestCheck has to say about our citations. And I suppose while we're waiting here, I can show you that you can download it um, as a Microsoft Word document. And I'll pull that over for us. So it automatically created it. You can make it not create it in these columns here. That's just kind of the default. But I mean, it's really quite nice to be able to have it in a Word document too. And the tables, I'm not sure if the tables will automatically update from here, but this is a lot of work you still don't have to do. Let's see if okay, here we go. So here we are in WestCheck. We are checking the citations here. So you can look at cited decisions, full text, key cite. So this is pretty interesting here. We are seeing all of the key cite information. So this is like the key cite report. These are all of the different cases that are citing to this one. Oh, these aren't citing cases. So actually what we're looking at here, 10 documents exist for this citation. So that means I need to go in and I need to manually fix this citation because these are all of the names associated with that. So that's another important thing to know, right? Let's take a look at here's another statute here. So really it's checking your citations for something kind of off or fishy, right? Two instances here. And it can automatically sort of identify the id and supra and that kind of language that you'd come across as well. But what I wanted to look at here is if we scroll down just a bit, I wanted to find one where it was more than once. That's okay. So you can't click through like I'd be able to if this document was just on Westlaw. And it looks a bit different because that table of authorities as well. So it's also checking everything in the table of authorities. Here we go. And then here's another one where it's saying a bunch of different documents exist for this citation. So you would want to go in and make sure that what you cite to is the correct citation. So this is sort of a nice, fun way to check your citations on a document. And the next thing I would like to show you how to do is how to use ChatGPT. So this one is a little contentious, obviously, because it doesn't have the same privacy protections as Lexis or Westlaw, but for relatively low risk activities, ChatGPT is really not bad. So I would say that if you're speaking in generalities, and this is the kind of case you do all the time, the amount of information I am feeding to ChatGPT to create this letter is not going to be super identifiable, right? Um, so here my prompt is please write, and I shouldn't say please actually, but you don't have to say please. But also saying please apparently costs costs money. So write a 93A 30-day demand letter under Massachusetts law to be sent to a landscaping company which took a client's money for continued lawn services, but failed to mow the lawn of the client's rental property, causing substantial HOA fees. So let's see what ChatGPT has to say. So it creates all the little spots for the letter, which I think is great. It's citing to Massachusetts 93A, Section 9(3). I would definitely want to double check that. But of course, if I worked in 93A, I would probably know what the law is offhand. But this is kind of a great way to create sort of a template or something like that. Here we have some facts to work with, but it contains the background, the damages, and a demand for relief. One of the things I think is also helpful is it tries to follow up with offering sort of a more aggressive version. I think that's funny, I guess is a good word for it. And then let's see, client communications, like just kind of day to day client communications are another great thing that you can create a template for. Um, So here I'm asking it to write a client engagement letter from my law firm, Golsby Law, to a new client who is looking to resolve a personal injury matter. So if I am a personal injury attorney, this may be something that I continue to use after editing it and taking a look, for lots of different areas of my practice. And of course, never just copy and paste this and send it off to your client. Never. Always read it. You do not know. Um, what's in here unless you read it, right? And then one of the fun follow-ups we can do here is write the email to my client that I gotta spell client that I will send with this letter. Also indicate that a copy is being sent via US mail. Okay, so not only did I get it to write the letter, I'm also going to get it to write me an email. Dear client name, hope this message finds you well. And it keeps going in. Yep. What's interesting too is I didn't give it my real first name. It's signing it as KK, which was my initials that I provided. Um, you will often get little bonuses that you did not ask for. That's another thing actually to look for is if I were trying to write this for somebody and it referred to my name incorrectly, I wouldn't know that unless I read it, right? And then another fun thing you can do, and this is kind of an unusual angle for this. So if I were working in, I guess, something regulatory or maybe even in the legislature, I might want something to help me figure out all of the different changes that are happening every day. So for this example, I found today's issue of the Federal Register, And the Federal Register is just sort of a daily diary of all of the activities of the executive branch. But what I can do is I can upload this entire document, and with the free version of ChatGPT, you can upload up to 3 documents a day. So we have this, and I'm going to ask it, please identify and summarize anything in the attached PDF that may have an impact on the fishing industry on the East Coast of the United States. So if I'm dealing with any kind of industry in the United States, it would be helpful to know what upcoming regulations might affect that industry. So that is why I chose the Federal Register. They're constantly being, the regulations are constantly changing. So let's see. It gives you the agency, the statute. So this is about Atlantic horseshoe crabs, South Atlantic Fishery Management Council public meeting. Good to know about, right? Maybe not a huge deal. Um, Permit actions, national emergency. So, and I mean, it's only basing this information off of a single day of Federal Register activity. You could probably upload an entire week's worth of stuff to get a more full picture. But this is kind of an unusual sample of how AI can help you draft things, right? It can help you just sort of get an overview of something and write yourself a document. Okay, so we went through all of these. All right, so what are some of the risks to using AI? I have two that I want to identify here for you that I think are particularly important and on just about everybody's mind. So it is hallucinations and privacy. So in a legal document, a hallucination can appear like a fabricated, non-existent case name, statute, or legal authority. Sometimes these may be partially fabricated, like it's a real name, but not a real reporter, or a real reporter location, but the name is wrong. Hallucinations may also present as distorted or misrepresented facts, quotations, holdings of cases, analysis, or standards. They may also provide unsupported propositions of law. There may also be falsified information about court procedures or filing requirements. And then there's also an issue of blended legal concepts or standards. So, from different laws, jurisdictions, or contexts, whatever your output is sort of blends a couple of things that don't necessarily go together. And the problem with all of this is that artificial intelligence, large language models want to give you an answer. So they'll often fill in the gaps without telling you. They so badly want to give you the right answer that they will give you any answer over no answer. So some of the situations that I've experienced with Lexis and Westlaw AI specifically include that there were inappropriate citations to civil cases on a criminal matter. I have also found it choose a law that sort of applies, but missing a key issue. So I have an example coming up on the next slide, or a few slides from now. And then also this issue of citing a real case but making up information about it. So these are all things, obviously, you don't want to experience. And I'm always keeping an eye out for kind of the little mistakes AI might make because that's the difference between humans and machines, really, is humans can be held accountable. So whenever AI makes a mistake or hallucinates, it's not the AI that's going to be in trouble for it, it's you. And here's our second big risk to using AI, privacy and privilege. So privacy and attorney-client privilege are arguably broken over a piece of information that is made public. Providing the wrong LLM with privileged or otherwise confidential information is probably one of the worst things you can do with AI as an attorney. So, first off, you could break your own privilege over a matter with your client, and that's not good. You could cause their private information to be leaked to the internet. And then here's an interesting one where the client sort of led the consequences. So this happened literally days ago. On February 10th, a federal court in USA versus Hepner decided that documents which are generated through a public AI platform were not protected by the attorney-client privilege or the work product doctrine. And you can click here if you're following along to get to that opinion on Court Listener. So, how do I avoid this situation? Always find out where information goes and how it is used before you provide it. So, one of the big things with these platforms is that they learn from information that you provide them. The second tip, never, ever share confidential or potentially privileged information on publicly available platforms. Now, I'm not going to say that Lexis and Westlaw are the most trustworthy things on the planet, but both of them do have a certain number of guarantees regarding data use. And these are guarantees that cannot be made by something like Claude or ChatGPT. And then a third thing, talk to your client about protecting privilege and privacy. Lots and lots of ordinary people have been using ChatGPT nonstop. Some have, I guess, enriched their own representation with AI. So if you're dealing with a client who wants to make sure you're telling them the right thing and they go onto AI, depending on what they're actually telling ChatGPT or Claude or any of these platforms, they could be doing the damage. So you also just want to be clear with your clients that they should not be providing details to ChatGPT. And then here's an example of a bad analysis I got. So I used Westlaw's Claims Explorer last year on a research exercise. Excuse me. I used Westlaw's Claims Explorer last year on a research exercise. In short, I expected the LLM to identify as an issue whether a party could be considered as being in a partnership for the purpose of a vendor collecting unpaid bills. So imagine it's two people go into business together, nothing formal. They sign a lease, and then for whatever reason they go their separate ways, and there's a third party, let's say a grocery store, who needs to collect unpaid bills. So I expected to see the laws on partnerships in Massachusetts. So my lawyer brain was thinking, well, we're going to argue that they were not partners. Therefore, my client is not going to be held liable. So the first answer that I was provided by the Claims Explorer cited to 42 United States Code, Section 1994, which is a law abolishing debt slavery. So that was not it, right? That was not even close to it. That was a law that stops me from having a debt slave apply. Sure, but it wasn't really what I was trying to get at. So again, a lawyer would argue, at least in part, that there's no partnership. If there is a partnership, there's some special reason why your client should not be held liable for this amount. You're always kind of thinking strategically, and sort of updating based on what a court can prove. So for this, for Westlaw to have just given me this as its reason was very, very out of left field. So, what are some best practices for safe use of AI? Obviously, I just said a bunch of things that could happen poorly, but there are so many different ways that you can play with AI and kind of make it a positive asset to your legal practice. So, for safe use, don't trust, always verify any output you get from AI. Always verify, particularly if you are new to practicing law because you are not familiar with the types of primary authority you should see for certain causes of action. So just be very careful. I think people who need it the most are often the people who are afraid, but you always need to verify that information, okay? Always maintain human judgment. So I did say this before in a way, Westlaw and Lexis aren't going to be facing a judge if they mess up. It's not Westlaw and Lexis on trial. It is not Their bar card that is going to be yanked away, it is yours. Always make sure that you maintain human judgment. Even when AI is a million times better than it is now, your human judgment and your tact and your creativity is important. Consider categories of risk. Okay. So if you were to get Lexus AI, that costs money per click or per service or per output. So if you are going to be using AI outside of school and when you actually have to sort of pay for the full use of these products, you might want to consider using something free or cheaper like ChatGPT for very low risk activities. What's a low risk activity? Drafting an email that doesn't have any identifying information in it, or writing a memo to one of your colleagues that describes the law in an area, as long as you check it, of course. So, a high risk thing would be, taking all of my clients' files and putting them into ChatGPT, which you should not ever do. Another thing, just a nice best practice, is to understand the limitations. So you should know what AI can't do. And what AI can't do is represent a client in court. I mean, it could try, but it doesn't have the accountability. You should understand that hallucinations are possible, even, probable because of how many people have gotten in trouble for those types of things. So be aware of what it can and cannot do well. And then the last thing, experiment with low stakes projects. I think it's so important to just try typing things in, see what comes up, prepare or compare your results. Ask ChatGPT the same question in three different tabs and see which one you like more. Mess around with tone, mess around with changing things, learn a little bit more about how it thinks so that when you need it, you're not just sort of diving in to completely uncharted territory. And then here's some extra information for further reading on artificial intelligence and legal practice. So I will open all of these. We have Massachusetts laws on AI, ABA ethics rules and generative AI, a legal practitioner's guide to AI and hallucinations, and then AI legal writing, how lawyers can work faster without sacrificing accuracy. So states are sort of limited in what they're allowed to legislate about when it comes to artificial intelligence. So Massachusetts kind of already has this little collection of Massachusetts law and other sort of fun resources that it suggests. So that is definitely something you may want to take a look at, especially if you're practicing in Massachusetts. This is an overview of ABA ethics rules and generative AI. It's by Thomson Reuters, so it's probably going to have a pro-industry slant, but it has some really helpful information on what rules might apply. And then we also have AI legal writing. So this is by the American Bar Association. Really helpful. I mean, it's just kind of giving you some best practices. So one of the things I did want to get was the this one. It looks like I have the wrong. So the National Conference of State Legislatures AI. There we go. So there are a couple of different reasons why this is a great website, right? But the National Conference of State Legislatures is another sort of uh, just great way to stay abreast of changes in the law about different hot topics. So here, this is just like a database, but there's also a legal practitioner's guide to AI and hallucinations. So a legal, all right. We'll see if we can find it here. All right. This is what I was looking for. Um, this is a really helpful thing because you can also download an entire guide via Dropbox. And it's all about AI and hallucinations. So it's helpful to the extent that you can actually learn more about this particular challenge. All right, and that is all I have. So if you would like a link to these slides, please go to tinyurl.com/Golsby AI drafting. And again, my name is Katelyn Golsby. I can be reached at kgolsby@umassd.edu. And I want to say thank you very much for attending and for listening to the recording, if that's what you're doing.